Cool. So we'll let's let everybody else kind of get piled in as they get off work as well. I'm sure we're all hopping around from job to AMA. So thank you all for joining us and taking the time to be here. My name is TJ. I'm the marketing manager here at Learn Academy. And for those who aren't familiar with Learn, we are a 4-month career transition program specializing in web development. And I have 2 of our awesome alumni here to join us for a little panel, Ask Me Anything event. So thank you all for joining us to ask any questions that you may have for them. But one of the reasons that we do have them with us today is we had Veterans Day last week. And I know Veterans Day is a close holiday to me. I have plenty of people in my family and extended family and friends who have been in the military. So it's a great holiday for not just me, but for all of them. And also for Learn. Learn is headquartered in San Diego. So helping and supporting the military is something that we're really passionate about as well. So thank you too for joining us. Thank you for your service. And we're really excited to have you here and get your perspective on a few things. But first of all, before we get to introductions, actually, let's get to introductions. It's introductions time. So with me, I have April Rieger. She is a mid-level software engineer at Notch 8. And with me as well, I have Eric Engstrom, who is a software quality assurance manager at Fine-Tune. Notch 8 and Fine-Tune are 2 awesome companies that we work with here at Learn. So we're happy to have them both here with me and with us. So I think to kind of get started, April, if you don't mind, kind of give me a little idea, like what were you doing before Learn? What cohort were you in? And kind of like what are you up to now?
Yeah, so directly before Learn, I was working as an art director at a global nonprofit, and I was doing all of their design needs as well as kind of like making sure that the WordPress websites weren't going down and like making them and doing all like the administrative front end part of that after the developers came in and created it. And before that, even before that, I was a veteran. I was active duty military. I was a bosun's mate, 2nd class in the United States Navy, and yeah. It was fun. It was a great time. My cohort that I was in was Bravo 2020 in the house. And right now I'm working, as TJ mentioned, with Notch 8. I'm a mid-level software engineer, and I just stepped into a DevOps role in order to get rid of our DevOps role. So it's something that our company has been trying to do, and I'm stepping in to try to document and teach our coworkers how to get all of our projects up in a DevOps atmosphere, empowering them to do all the things so that I'm not a barrier and no one person is, and reducing the bottleneck within our company. So that's pretty exciting. And that's me in a nutshell.
Well, thank you, April, for giving that awesome background of yourself and what you're doing before Learn. Eric, if you don't mind as well, maybe kind of share again, like what were you doing before Learn? What cohort were you in? Why is that word so hard for me to say?
Yeah, so yeah, for sure. I was in Bravo 2021. So just, I mean, 1 year right after April. Like we actually got done, about 3 months ago? So late August was like the last day of the internship. Sorry, I have a bit of a stutter, so you guys are gonna hear that, so that's fun. Previously before Learn, I was a building infrastructure engineer. So like my title, I was like chief engineer of like 6 different city buildings downtown. So we did everything from like like boilers, chillers, pumps, like heat exchangers, a bunch of different stuff. And these, so like these buildings were all from like the mid 60s. Things were just constantly breaking all the time. Learned a ton, but so I did that for the last 7 years. And then COVID hit, and I was like, whoa, like, what am I gonna do? I mean, so I was very fortunate as far as like my buildings weren't shut down. But yeah, there was just nobody in them. So like I could see like the writing on the wall that like we could be shut down at like any second, which we weren't. But like that forced me to, kind of look forward, and kind of like evaluate like what like my future looked like, just because like like the world was changing. So I wanted something where I could work from anywhere at like any time. Just like that like flexibility, and something where I would be just like constantly learning. Like every single day. And that's yeah, so those are things that I value. And it was no brainer. I was like, cool. So my brother went to learn. He was in I forget which cohort, I think 2019, I think. And then also my partner, Sarah Proctor, which is right down there on your screen somewhere. So she also went to learn. We're also, she's downstairs, I'm upstairs right now. So so we are in the same household. So I just saw, like what they went through and how they just loved it and just like totally changed their lives. And I was like, that's exactly what I need. So so I was in the Navy. Sorry, this is long-winded. So I was in the Navy from 2000 to 2006. So definitely saw like pre 9/11 world. Like in the military, and then saw that change. I've definitely been around for a while, and just a little something about me to get us kickstarted.
Love it. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, April. It's so great to hear your stories. That's one of the awesome things I love about this event, and I love about our alumni is they all come from so many different places, so many different backgrounds, and your guys' stories are awesome. Cool. So one of the great things about these AMAs is I want to hear questions from you guys. We want to get some engagement. So please, we'll open up questions here in just a second, but start thinking about it. You can either throw it in the chat, raise your hand, get an idea. And you can either, like I said, leave it in the chat, or we'll let you turn on your, unmute yourself and please go ahead and ask the question. So get ready for that. But to kick us off, I think what's really cool and why we kind of brought you guys together is we want to highlight some of our awesome veterans. And I think one of the interesting things about being in the military is, I can't speak for it, but I assume you learn so many different skills and so many different things from being in the military. One of the things that I kind of want to know is like, is there anything that you learned from the military that maybe translated into coding really well? Like maybe a skill set, maybe a process that, maybe helped your journey as you started to learn to code. Maybe Eric, do you mind kicking us off?
Yeah. So like my biggest takeaway is that, so the Navy really just like taught me how to learn. Just because there's, like so many different schools that you can go to. It's more of like the aspect of, if I teach you how to learn, then you can learn pretty much anything. And that was my biggest takeaway from like the military. So like that in itself was kind of like my like guide, as far as like when I was going through, learning like the coding. So like my method for like learning is just like understand like these concepts. And if you understand the concept, then you can pretty much answer any question, like in like this concept. And that's huge in coding, is like understanding these very like abstract concepts and understanding what they do, how they do it, and why they do it. So like that's my biggest takeaway, from like my time, like in the military. It's just like learning how to learn. That was huge.
Very cool. Very cool. That's interesting how that learning process translated into coding and kind of helped you see how to adapt and learn new strategies. April, do you have anything to maybe add to that, or kind of anything that helped you translate into coding?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it was leadership skills, and it was something that I didn't really think was a big thing at all. And before I came and went to learn, one of my like anxiety ridden things was having to pair program and having to work like in a group of people and be vulnerable about my skill level, or maybe not, like my lack of being able to understand the information or articulate the question. So leadership skills, communication skills, being able to come in and have a can-do attitude. You know, we may not be able to figure it out right now, but that's okay. We're still learning, and we're in a learning environment, and we are going to figure it out no matter what. So coming in and being able to get the job done no matter what, that kind of spirit, I guess, is great, and it translates well, I think, for a coding career.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that overcoming adversity, I think, is kind of branching off of that, because you know, I mean, you're always going to see an error message. You're always kind of going to get stuck. You know, maybe that's kind of an interesting thing to kind of pivot off of. Maybe Eric, do you kind of come by and talk about like what in coding, when you kind of got stuck, like what was kind of your process like? Maybe figuring out the problem, overcoming this problem solving, or, you know, because it happens all the time, right?
Oh yeah, totally. Yep. Yeah. No, yeah. And I have this thing, if I just stare at the screen long enough, like usually like something will come to me like, oh yeah, let's try this. And then you try that and then it just doesn't work. You're like, okay, back to square one. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like as far as, yeah, just really just like sticking with it. That's like the biggest thing, because it's incredibly frustrating. And there's times where you're just like, okay, like I want to rip my hair out. I don't have any more to rip out. So what do I do? Yeah, so like taking a walk, you know, just kind of, you know, yeah, like resetting like your brain a little bit. I've also noticed that to help quite a bit. Yeah, just, I mean, patience too. I mean, like patience with yourself. That's huge, because I mean, like what you're doing is extremely tough, and there's no, yeah, I mean, like there's no right answer, and there's more than one right answer. So think about that for a second.
That is definitely the hard part, I think, is there's always more than one way to answer or do a problem or figure it out or come to the same conclusion, that you don't have that like basis to check it on, like the back of the math book. There's no
Right, exactly.
concrete one way. It's so difficult.
Yeah,
sometimes.
there's like tons of different ways to like solve these problems. Yeah, there's no one, you know, I mean, like universal answer.
Which is also the beauty in it, because that creates so much diverse code and diverse like partnerships or even like collaboration. So it's kind of neat.
I agree.
Awesome. You know, I'd like to open up to anybody in the audience. If they have a question for any of our guests, you can go ahead and raise your hand, place it in the chat. Kirk, absolutely, thanks. So Kirk is wondering, and just I think to go off Kirk's question. So before you came to learn, you know, what was kind of your coding background before? You know, if you've never seen a line of code, I know Eric, you had mentioned, you know, you kind of had some background from, you know, from having people in your household experience, but maybe I'll start with you, April. Like, what was your first experience kind of seeing code, and did you have any, you know, had you seen it before you came to learn?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna date myself here. MySpace. So back when I had like real little kids and I was first in the military, I was stationed in San Diego. I was taking courses for a business degree, and one of the courses that I took with elective was a web development course. And after MySpace, it was something that I would really wanted to like try to pursue. And it was a front end web development course. And I absolutely enjoyed it and loved it. And I created the most god awful, ugly pink site you've ever seen in your life, but it was cool. So I did a lot of front end web development. And then after I got out of the military, I pursued a degree for graphic and web design, where I also was taking a ton of elective courses for programming, whether it was C++, C#. I did WordPress, PHP, a little bit of jQuery and JavaScript, but it wasn't like, you know how to do these things. It was just kind of like, oh, here's the one course, and you're just going to kind of get a little bit exposure to it. So I came out of that thinking like, I'm a developer, I'm going to do all the things and get this great job after I got out of school. But that was not the case. But I did get a great job, but it was in the design practice. And then I really, really enjoyed it. So then I pursued design. Yeah. And then COVID happened and I had to pivot, but pivoting was pretty awesome. It was very helpful in one, like resetting my mindset to the way that we should be thinking and growing as, team-based businesses. So yeah, if it wasn't for Learn, I don't think I'd be where I'm at, one, in my personal goals, or two, my professional goals. So it's all pretty awesome.
Very cool. I think we all can relate to the MySpace days and adding the snow or the featured player and all that awesome stuff that made our MySpace profiles awesome. Eric, maybe did you kind of experience maybe coding before maybe anybody in your friends kind of started to do it?
Yeah, I don't know if it was before or like concurrently, but yeah, so in my previous line of work, there was like all these like data points that were like being generated, like these buildings that I could like trend and actually kind of like make sense out of. So like my first really kind of big introduction into coding was more like more into like data science. Yeah, so I just dove into Python and pandas and did a little bit of machine learning, just a little bit of that. And then, yeah, so then when I really like identified that I wanted to kind of make this like my career, then I started taking more like JavaScript, like these classes on, like on like Udemy, just like those, which are really good courses, but it's all on you to, kind of get it done, and, don't really get like any feedback, and don't really get to like work with anybody else, which is like a big part of, like programming and like pair programming. Like on like the surface level, from like data science over, to like JavaScript, HTML, CSS, but nothing really all that concrete.
Yeah, totally. And to kind of go off that, just a little bit, if you don't mind, what's interesting is, kind of everybody starts at Learn at relatively the same area. I know we need you to have, some fundamentals of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But I think, for some of the new students coming into the cohort, like, what is the question I'm trying to get at? Not necessarily advice, but I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the question in my head, but it's not coming out.
Yeah, I think I know where
I'll think about it for a second. I'll think about it for just a second and how I'm trying to word it. I'm going to pivot to one of the questions some of the others people just dropped here. But, what Jared asked a great question here, but what was some of your inspiration to getting coding? Like, I know you had mentioned COVID, and, maybe why was coding the choice when you guys made your career pivots? I'll start with you, April, if you don't mind.
Well, I know Chelsea, and we worked together with Girls in Tech, and it was always one of the jokes that we had, like, when are you going to come through Learn? You know you want to. as I'm dealing and pulling my hair out with all these WordPress websites going, oh gosh, this is really fun, but also crazy at the same time. Do you think I can do it? And it was difficult because it's like you have to quit or work different hours. And my job at that time was not able to do that. So it's like you kind of had to stop and put your career on hold to come to learn. And you're just not sure if you're ready for that yet. And for me, I had a family, so it was a hard decision to make, but COVID took it out of my hands. It was something that I have been wanting to do and striving to do and kind of like taking pieces and learning on the side. But I really did need to dive in and do it full time because part of my learning style is to immerse myself in the code and not only like learn about it, but also practice it and play around with the code in an environment where I can do so. And then pairing up, part of Learn's process with pair programming is pairing up with somebody that you're at the same level with, or maybe not, maybe they're at a little bit better of a level. The skill sets blend and you can figure it out. I think the joy of pair programming is that, just that, learning each other's styles and learning the different process that they may take, whether it's troubleshooting or getting to the answer. It is really wonderful. So yeah, but I loved coding before and I was glad to pivot around and be able to make it a career.
Thank you, April. And Eric, I know you kind of mentioned, you kind of saw the writing on the wall. Like, was there anything specific about like a coding career path that really drew you into that? Was any of the perceived benefits that you saw?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, like the whole thing really, like the whole like lifestyle of it, as far as, like being able to work from like wherever, like, yeah, like whenever, like that was pretty much like my biggest driving stake, I guess, as far as like, yeah, as far as like why I wanted to make like the this career change, because I didn't have to, like I was like totally comfy like in my job. Yeah, like made really good money. I didn't have to do this at all, but like I realized that like in order for me to be happy, like this is what I wanted to like do, like, yeah, so like this is how like I wanted to like live my life. And it really is, like just like this big, like, yeah, just like huge like life changer. It like opens up, like tons, yeah, like tons more just like possibilities. Like you learn constantly, like just like feeling smarter every day, by learning things that you just like didn't think that you could learn, or like this crazy concept that you just never thought that you would get your mind wrapped around in. And yeah, like just to echo off of April, for sure it is, just like 100% just like dig into it. And like like these like 3 or 4 months, like that's all that like I did anyways, is just totally just learn and do nothing but coding, and like learning. Like that was like, yeah, it's easy once you make that choice to like dive into it, and this is all that you're going to do. And in my opinion, that's what you need to do to be successful.
I love it. And April, like kind of what Eric was saying, that remote work, we've all kind of been adjusted to it, working from home. Like, how has that adjustment been for you? It has been a kind of a plus, or interesting?
Yeah, so I did have a remote position prior to pivoting. I did work remotely for 4 years at the global nonprofit that I was talking about before. So it wasn't new, but it was a nice like added benefit to not have to worry about like during this time, like exposing myself or my family to COVID right now, because it was scary back then. I know that my cohort was, I think, the second cohort that went to an all remote cohort. so that in itself was the weird thing, but it it really was like flawless the way that they were able to put it together and craft it in a very intentional manner, for us to learn and thrive. So yeah, it was really cool. And then now being able to be home, like if you are not able to have a remote job now, moving into this career path opens up that door of possibilities to you. And you know, I'm a parent. I don't know if any of you are parents, but it does make the day-to-day life a lot easier. I work from home. I can stop what I'm doing. My employer is really cool, because I'm an adult and I know how many hours I work in a day, and I know what I need to get done at the end of the day. So I can stop what I'm doing and go pick up my kids when they're ready to get out of school. And that allows me not to have to worry about daycare. It allows me a lot of freedoms. If I have a doctor's appointment in the middle of the day, I can stop what I'm doing and go to my doctor's appointment and make up the time at a different time. I'm able to have a flexible like work-life balance. And I know that that has been thrown in the media a lot, and it is absolutely true. I, before this, had such anxiety in my day-to-day job. I didn't even know until after COVID happened and I got let go and I became a developer and went through Learn, the way that your mindset has shifted and the way that you think about things in life in general is pretty amazing. I'm able to now slow down a bit and actually live life. And I think that like being able to do that is pretty beneficial for me personally. So I hope so for you as well.
I love that. I agree. Yeah, it's been an adjustment, and that's kind of a nice little benefit that you had for kind of getting a leg up on all of us on exactly how remote work happens. But it's great. It definitely has its benefits, and I've enjoyed it a little bit too. A lot more time with the dogs, which was fun. So I got to go a puppy break whenever you need it. Cool. So I want to get to Regina's question a little bit, but I kind of want to just, I hope I answer this. But one of the things, and it kind of plays off to what that question I had finally came back to me, but with people starting the program, you know, I mentioned we need our students to know the fundamentals of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But you know, what's scary is you're learning all these new languages and all these new skills in just 4 months. And a lot of our students feel these feelings of imposter syndrome. It's kind of scary. Can you kind of just talk about like maybe what were some of the feelings that you had kind of coming into the program? You know, it's scary learning all these new languages and coding stuff in just 4 months. So maybe Eric, can you kind of talk about maybe what were the feelings you had, and maybe how did you overcome them a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah. Imposter syndrome. It's huge. I mean, like everybody goes through it on like different, scales. Like my personal way of, like dealing with it is just feeling confident in like the ability, to like do what you should be doing. And that's kind of vague, but like really being confident in like what you learned and like your ability to actually, like learn more. Because like once you get to like your first career or your first job, whatever, like you're not going to be expected to, just like, like rewrite the code base or, do a bunch of, things on day one. Like there's like these, these like onboarding processes, and almost, like it should be expected of you to, keep learning. Like that's the biggest thing is like you shouldn't be like an expert in anything really. Like even the experts aren't experts in like this stuff because everything's constantly changing. So really, like my biggest advice is really don't get bogged down with, feeling, that you're not, up to par, because everybody feels that way. And just, feel confident in yourself, for like what you've gone through, and also like what you can do in the future. So, like once I was able to, kind of practice those, two key points, like I really don't like experience like this in imposter syndrome. Sorry with my stutter, but yeah, that's my biggest advice.
Thank you, Eric. I do appreciate you diving into that a little bit. April, how about yourself? Like, what were some of the feelings you had kind of starting off the course, and maybe how did you overcome those a little bit?
I didn't. I continued to have imposter syndrome rolling into my internship and then straight up rolling into my job. I started at Notch 8 as well, I don't even think I had a title. I was just contracting with them for a few months because I wasn't confident that I could dedicate 8 full hours to a job because my kids were in distance learning at the time, and it was just kind of like weird. And they were cool with that. But then as soon as I told them that I was ready, they switched me over as a mid-level developer. And I was like, why are you giving me a mid-level developer? I'm not a mid-level developer. They're like, April, like you have so many skills that you don't even see, like your leadership skills, like your communication skills. You're an adult, like you're not new whippersnapper coming out of college that doesn't know how to work on a team, or to, there's all these added skills that, we as individuals don't really get to see or like focus on while we're like rolling through. Like when we make our resume, we don't put like leadership skills, it's something that it's difficult to translate one from that active duty like sheet that we got, like all of our evals with bullet points. That's like, oh yeah, I did like a vert rep, blah, 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 did 28 cases of pallets on the back of the flight deck. Like, how do you translate that over into something that a civilian employer is going to know what value you gain, So yeah, sorry, I'm going in a deep end here, but to bring it back, it's always something that you're going to struggle with. It is always going to be there. It's not something that you're going to wake up and be like, I don't have imposter syndrome. You're always going to feel it. And I think like taking a look at the strategies that you can employ now, with one, identifying that you're spiraling or that you're in this negative mind frame where you're talking negatively to yourself, and then have something in place for you to notice, like one, like how you can get yourself out of that like negative self-talk. And for me, what I've found that works for me is that when one of my coworkers says something empowering or thoughtful or kind to me, or something that I did that was helpful, I just copy and paste it into a notes on my computer. And when I feel down about something or I am talking negatively to myself, it's hard, but you have to be aware that you're doing that. And then 2, I bring up that sheet of paper and I read through all of these wonderful comments that my coworkers have said to me over the time that I've been employed there. And on the top list, my boss told me, I don't expect you to know everything. And that typically, that pulls me out right there. So I don't expect you to know everything. And then the second bit of advice, I think, is being vulnerable enough to speak about this with somebody on your employment team, whether it's HR or your project manager or your boss, whoever you feel comfortable with, and talking about these and being vulnerable about your imposter syndrome. And that way, like, you can come together with a plan that would be helpful for you so that you can, one, employ those steps or strategies to get yourself out, but also like to move towards like something within that career path that might be a little bit helpful to gain confidence so that you don't experience imposter syndrome as much. So those are the few tips that I would suggest. And then study and be kind to yourself. Take breaks. Put it down if it's bothering you. It's okay. Oh, and what's the good one? Check it in if it's working. Check it in.
I love all those. I love the list too. I never thought about that. That's a good thing to keep handy.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
Wait.
a great strategy.
when you need that that instant high five, just pull that out and it's right there. Um, what's really cool about having both of you here tonight is that you guys are on two kind of, you both graduated similarly, but you're on kind of two different paths in your developer career. April, I'd love to know a little bit, like, where do you see your developer career going? Like, what is kind of like the future entail for you? Is there any specific things you're most interested in?
No, all of it. um, I don't know. I don't know about you, but I chase the dopamine rush. So if it's new, shiny, and exciting, then I want to get my hands on it and play with it and deconstruct it and try to reconstruct it and figure out all the pieces and parts. So yeah, it's so fun.
Eric, how about you? I know you just kind of started a little bit, but kind of, do you have like a little plan on any specific niches that sound like where you're headed?
Yeah, so the plan is there is no plan, pretty much. So we're building out this whole new this whole like new this new quality assurance kind of like faction of the company. So I mean, like everything is like, I mean, it's all brand new. So I mean, like, so like my biggest like task is to kind of like free up the time from like the CIO that was doing all the testing and like validating before, as to where I can step in and just like do all this testing and then think of, I mean, like new things that, I mean, like we didn't, I mean, like, so end-to-end testing, like they don't do any of that. It's all just like manual testing as like new features or like bugs are fixed. There's no what's the word?
Automated?
There's definitely, I mean, like no like automated testing. That's something I'm looking forward to doing. So like Catalan is a very powerful tool in in automatic testing, as to where if I can set up a script, to like, test like these functions from start to finish, after every rollout, and then just like roll that, test, it could save hours and hours and hours of time. So yeah, I mean, pretty much, I mean, like the plan is there is no plan. It's just, learn as much as we possibly can and figure out, what we need to do in order to, make everybody's lives easier. And that's pretty much what we're doing. So.
I love that. You're both just kind of riding with the flow, seeing where the wind in your sails takes you. I do want to get to Jared questions though real quick, and it kind of brings up an interesting point. Like when you were first starting out in your job process and like learn was that only thing on your resume, like what was kind of that topic of conversation? Like what was the impression, like a coding bootcamp was enough maybe education to really kind of start that career path? I'll start with you, Eric, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, so luckily, I have a sorry, talking is tough. I have a degree in mechanical engineering. So like that really helped out. I mean, like that alone really, I mean, like just got me a lot of interviews. I mean, I was very fortunate that, I mean, I did land a job within like a little over a month, after, boot camp, and I started like, about 2 months after. So it's not, I mean, it's like definitely not like needed for sure. Definitely helps. But I mean, that's just, I mean, like my perspective. I was, I mean, like very lucky, very lucky. But
Yeah, absolutely. We actually see that with a lot of our students, and that engineering background seems to really translate into kind of an adjacently into a coding career path. And like you said, a lot, I mean, we've seen bioengineering, we've seen mechanical engineering, electrical, you know, just for that thinking process and how that kind of works seems to really be translatable into the into a coding career. And maybe April, if you don't mind, maybe kind of dive into that a little bit, like as well, like when you were first starting out, like what was that education just enough to kind of get you in the door in some interviews?
Yeah, I actually got hired from my internship. So um, I think for me, it was just being able to demonstrate for the entire time that I was at the internship, the skill set that I have and what value I bring. So for me, it definitely didn't matter whether or not I had attended college or if I went to a boot camp to learn. So I demonstrated that if I didn't know it, I was going to figure out how to do it. And I think that's the integral part here is being a team player and knowing that you're valued, and then also being a good communicator.
Excellent, excellent. I agree, and like you said, with the internship program, that does offer a lot of opportunities for our students. Because you know what's different from between the internship program that we offer, not a lot of coding boot camps out there do offer this awesome opportunity because it really gives you a chance to really experience that real world kind of bridging between the classroom to the real world, which is very crucial. I'm sure you guys can talk many at lengths about it. But it also gives you an opportunity for the employers to kind of see if you're a great fit. And like April saw, a lot of times it could work out into full-time employment. And to comment on your question, Jared, you're 100% right. That's one of the great things about kind of Erica and April is their careers are kind of adjacent. So she mentioned she's exploring DevOps, which is development operations, right? Development operations. Yeah, no, maybe. Yeah. There's so many acronyms, it's hard to keep up, but that's an adjacent operation. Quality assurance, like what Eric does. His job is to break things, right? Your job is to just, you have this awesome, beautiful app, and your job is to just take this, yeah.
See what works, see what doesn't, and then, and then like be like the heartbreaker. Be like, nope, sorry guys, this doesn't work. Rejected.
Yeah.
Like, no.
You just take that permanent marker all over their
beautiful. Exactly. Yeah, like no.
Yeah, and we have so many other students. I mean, we've had people who become blockchain developers. We have people who do accessibility, which is another trending topic right now, which is helping to build websites that are accessible through screen readers, people with disabilities. That's a huge trending topic right now. And for a lot of people in the military, I mean, drones, all of the defense software that comes in. So what's really great about this program and just learning, kind of like what we talked about, learning how to learn, is it allows you to kind of branch off into all those other awesome different categories. So we're kind of on the tail end of our AMA. I know it's been a little bit fun here. So if you have any last minute questions, start to get those together. I've got a few more on my end, but with we have the first day coming up here, our last cohort of 2021. It's kind of wild. It's insane. 2020 is wrapping up. That blows my mind. But B, for some of the people coming up, do you have any advice for incoming students? Like, what is the one thing they need to know before they start on day one? Maybe Eric.
One thing, that's tough. Yeah.
Or a few if you want. Or a few.
For sure. I mean, so the biggest thing is to just kind of realize that it's going to be fast paced. It's going to be quick. It's going to be fast. And just give yourself that time, to take care of yourself. And whatever else you have to, but just know that it's going to take a lot of time, effort, and yeah, just kind of like slow it down. I mean, if you can, because it's going to go quick and it's fast, quick and fast. But yeah, that's my biggest, advice is just really, just, yeah, I mean, like, be kind to yourself, yeah, yeah, like, as like April said, yeah, just like take breaks because it's huge. It's huge. So yeah, that's like my biggest piece of advice is just take it slow because it's coming at you fast.
Yeah, coming at you fast. I like that. But like you said, I mean, all these imposter feeling syndromes, taking it slow, one day at a time, take some breaks. Maybe April, do you have any comments on like what do they got to know? First day's coming up.
Sure. One of the strategies that I employed was reading the lesson prior to the night before. I would take a look at the lesson and I would read through it. One of my problems is that I have problems like with reading, so, and actually retaining the information. And sometimes verbally, it's hard for me to comprehend unless I've seen it before or know about it a little bit. So taking the time to review the course material the night before, so it's fresh in your head for the next morning, was very, very beneficial for me and my success. The other thing that I'd like to say is block scheduling some time for yourself to study and make sure that you get enough sleep every single night. You're going to want to stay up late and you're going to want to build so many projects, but there's going to be a ton of time for that because there's going to be a little bit of time for in between your internship and your final project to get some projects up to speed and get those out for your resume or your websites. And that's really, really important. So make sure that you schedule time for that. And if it's overwhelming for you to break those down, try to break them down into little smaller pieces. Like maybe you want to know one section of the JavaScript library or the methods that you're going to inherit from classes or whatnot. You want to take it and break it down into smaller pieces and give yourself the time to fully like understand that section before proceeding forward. And then at the end of every week when you're doing your assessments, really check in to make sure that you've completed those goals and whatever you've scheduled for yourself. And if you haven't, put a little extra time in on the weekend, but also don't kill yourself. Like you need your rest, you need your sleep in order to like perform. So there's always going to be time and trust the process. The process, like Learn has set up this amazing process. I went into it with my like thinking that it wasn't going to work. It's not 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 going to work. It works. It really does. So trust it. And good luck. I can't wait to see you all in the San Diego or non-San Diego tech scene. And then if you guys want to reach out on LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. I think it's like /April Rieger 1 or something. So feel free to ask any questions there as well if you need any further advice or anything, or if you just want to be connected.
Awesome. Thank you so much, April. We are on the tail end, so last call for any quick questions. I'm going to open up the floor to that. But before we close on out, like April mentioned, she said, please go ahead and reach out to our LinkedIn. I know Eric, I'm sure you're totally open as well. You can find all of them on LinkedIn. You can find me or Sarah. She's our lead instructor as well. So if you have any questions for us, we're both on LinkedIn as well. You can find us on the Learn Academy site. We do have an awesome workshop happening this weekend, mini jumpstart. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to put a link here in the chat real quick. So if you haven't signed up already for coming to our event tonight, we're going to give you access to our event. So I am going to send this out in the follow-up, but I just want to give you this real quick. But what's super awesome about this event is it's kind of a one-day little bit of a prep course for our upcoming. We're going to build a magic 8-ball. So I don't know if you guys remember building the magic ball, but the magic 8-ball is always a lot of fun. to build out. I've got this link handy real quick. So that does seem like everybody's kind of good on questions here. We are recording today, so we are going to throw this up on our YouTube channel. We'll do that here soon. And like I mentioned, if you have any questions, please reach out to us at Learn. Here is that ticket link. It's in the chat. So free access is usually $24.99, but for you guys, exclusive access, completely comped. Our friends. That's going to wrap us up here tonight. We do appreciate you joining us and getting all your questions answered and having some hot lists. So we hope to see you guys around. And happy Thanksgiving if we don't get to see you before then. Should be happy holidays.
Happy holidays. And thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, everybody.